So let's talk about the stages of an IRS audit or a life cycle of the IRS audit. So I'm going to hit the main milestones, and each one can take several weeks or several months. And I'll tell you what the longest one is. So I'm Anita Steburg. I'm the founder and CEO of Steburg Law Firm, where we help people with this issue every day. So the first thing that you will find out when that you are under audit is you're going to receive a letter from the IRS. That letter will give you 10 days to follow up or contact the auditor. You are going to discuss with the auditor the time that's going to take to respond. I always advise taxpayers to do 30 to 45 days out. That way you have time to get representation. It's also going to take you some time to get all the documents. So after you've spoken with the auditor, they're going to send you an information document request, and it's going to detail out the documents that they're requesting. It's going to list the category. They will not give you an information docket request that says, show me all of your expenses from Office Depot. They don't have the backup regarding your expenses, but what they will do is they can look at your tax return and say, oh, you've claimed office supplies. So we want the invoices and proof of payment for the category office supplies. So it's going to tell you what they are looking at, and it's not uncommon in audits, especially more sophisticated audits, that there is more than one information document request. The responding to the information document request, normally there is, when you followed up after the initial letter, a meeting was set. Sometimes those are correspondence that you just mail them the documents. Sometimes those are in person. Sometimes they want the documents mailed to them, as well as a telephone call. And if you have a tax attorney or a power of attorney to represent you, your representative can provide the documents, help get those all organized. The IRS is very particular about how they have it. And after doing this for over 15 years, when things are very organized and explained in detail, audit goes much smoother. So they will have some sort of meeting, and then if it was in litigation, we would call it discovery, but basically it becomes a substantiation of your tax returns. Any income that was claimed on your tax return, the IRS is going to try to match those with your bank statements. They will get a copy of all of your bank statements, sometimes from you, sometimes from the bank, sometimes from both. But they want to review all of your deposits, and they are going to ask either you or your representative, was all the income claimed? And was there any non-taxable income, right? Those are generally gifts, loans, inheritances, anything like this. And they are going to add up all of your deposits. They're going to take out the ones that are very easily identified as non-taxable income, and they're going to give you, at some point, a report that details all of those statements, what they've determined is taxable income, so that you can dispute it or correct the record. They're also going to tie your expenses to match the tax return. So the IDR, once again, is going to ask for details about your tax return, and they're going to try to tie in those expenses. Not only do they ask for proof that it was incurred, as well as proof it was paid, they're also going to ask about how does that relate to the business if it's not apparent. And this is the longest part when information document requests, subsequent ones are coming from the IRS, responding to them, getting all the documents. That can take a lot of time. And even after the IRS has documents, sometimes it can take them several months to review and then come up with follow-up questions, or to say, okay, I've tied down that issue, now I want to look at this. And during the scope of the audit, they likely will expand it. So if they start with 2021, they can go back to 2020, and they can also open up 2022 for your personal and business. Once the IRS feels that the audit can be closed, and for a personal tax return, that can take 6 months or more. For very simple ones, W-2 employee, no major expenses, no business, straight W-2 employee, probably will take 6 months. Anything more complicated is going to take longer. If it is a business return, depending on the business, depending on the complexities, depending on the amount of transactions, it's going to take 12 to 18 months minimum. 12 to 18 months is generally what we see, but the IRS can keep it longer depending on what they find. And if you have a business that tax return that relates to your personal, perfect example is like an S Corp or multi-member LLC. They're going to open up business and personal, which means it's going to take at least 12 to 18 months. IRS is going to send you out an adjustment letter that is, these are our proposed findings. And from there, you can respond a couple of different ways. The one way to respond is you can give the auditor additional information, and sometimes they'll look at it, sometimes they won't. But the two formal ways that will likely be a need to happen is you can agree with the IRS letter and the proposed adjustments. You can protest, and that's sending it up to a protest letter saying why you don't agree to it and asking the case to be transferred to appeals. Appeals plays an independent role in the audit process. It's somebody who's never seen your tax return, who's never been involved with the audit, and appeals is they play a very independent role, and they're looking at the litigation risk. That's really, if you have other documents you want them to look at, if they have additional questions, and they're looking to say, did the auditor get this right? So you can provide additional information, and a lot of cases are resolved at that level. The third way is maybe it doesn't have a sufficient time to go to appeals because it still has to have a certain amount of time left on the statute. You can ask the IRS to issue a notice of deficiency, and that gives you 90 days to file a tax court petition to have a judge look at it. And that's your case against the IRS to ask the judge to make a final determination regarding do they agree with the IRS or do they agree with you? Like I said, without going to appeals or having appealing to the U.S. tax court, a personal tax return, the minimum time is 6 months, assuming it is very simple. Otherwise, I would count on 12 months. If it's business, you're probably looking at a minimum of 12 months. If it is a multi-million-dollar business and it is much more complicated, you are probably looking at least 18 months. I hope that explains the stages of an audit. I'm Anita Steburg. I'm the founder and CEO of the Steburg Law Firm, and I hope you found this useful.